Hey, it's Lainey. I recently went on an Alaska cruise, and so I wanted to share my review of the Regent Seven Seas Rails to Trails Alaska cruise with you. And this was from Vancouver to Whittier, Alaska. This was my first ever cruise, and I went with my husband and two of our friends. Overall, I would say that Alaska is just absolutely beautiful, untouched land, and so worth it to go. I'm really glad that I made this trip. A little bit of background on the cruise line we chose. We went with Regent Seven Seas, which markets itself as a luxury, all-inclusive cruise. What this means for you is that all of your food, including the fancy restaurants, the liquor is all top shelf, that's all included, and there's always a free excursion at every port. The free excursions are usually something like an easy hike or a museum tour, so if you want something a little bit more exciting, you are going to have to pay an extra charge, but they do give you a lot of options as far as excursions go. This is a big part of why we chose Regent, because you just pay once and you're not surprised with the bill at the end of your stay. And if you can make it through the end of the video, then I'll go through what we paid, how we negotiated the rate, and how that rate stacks up to other cruise lines. We got a concierge suite, which is category D. And what this comes with is, of course, a concierge to help you with all your needs, but also you get earlier embarkation time, first pick on the restaurants, and you can connect up to 4 devices to the Wi-Fi any day. But the real reason we got this room is because it was a little bit bigger than the intro level. When we got on the ship, the room was ready and we were able to walk right in. And we walked into a really nice surprise because it was my birthday and they gave me a cute little happy birthday sign with balloons and champagne. I thought it was so fun. I loved it. And I really like the layout of this room. Well, you have a balcony, which is awesome. You have a seating area by the balcony. The bed faces that nice big window. You have a full walk-in closet and a huge bathroom with a tub and lots of counter space. All throughout the room, I think it was well designed. There's lots of mirrors and wall hooks and just general storage space, so we were very comfortable for our 7-night stay. We did have a little bit of a disconnect here with our pre-embarkation concierge because we did request a couple drinks and snacks to be stocked in the room when we got there, and they weren't. But they have 24/7 room service, so it really wasn't an issue. Now let's talk about the food. There's 3 signature restaurants on the Explorer, so I'll start with them first. They are reservation only for dinner, but no reservation needed for lunch. To reserve, you can book online before your embarkation, and you are guaranteed to have 1 reservation per restaurant throughout your trip. If you want to go more than once, then you have to book on the ship. I was able to book ahead for my full party of 4. I just had to put in my friends' names and room numbers. First up, we have Pacific Rim, which is Asian fusion. This is the only restaurant on the 5th floor of the ship, and it has a lot of really good fish options. I ended up getting the miso cod, which was fantastic. Then we have chartreuse, which is French cuisine. We actually ended up being an hour early to our reservation because of a time change that we didn't realize. So we hung out in the bar for a while until they were ready for us. I really loved the gold table settings here, and this restaurant was my personal favorite because I loved the beef tartare. Lastly, we have Prime 7, which is their steakhouse, and I love the vibe of this bar area in the restaurant, and they even have a Picasso hanging up over here. Prime 7 has the silver theming with a lot of bowls in the artwork. I ordered the ribeye and a few sauces on the side. The meat was good, but a little bit overcooked from what I ordered. I highly recommend the onion rings. They were really good, but they don't give you that many. All in all, I really liked the signature restaurants, but keep in mind that the portion sizes are very small, so you aren't really going to get enough to share sides with your friends. But that being said, if you really like something and you want more of it, you can order it at any time during the meal and they'll give it to you. Outside of the signature restaurants, for breakfast, they have 2 buffets. One at La Veranda, which is indoors, and the other at the pool deck, which is kind of an indoor-outdoor space. On top of that, you can get breakfast delivered to your room. So if it's a nice day and you want to eat breakfast on the balcony, it's totally worth it to do that. For lunch, you don't need a reservation at any of the signature restaurants, but they're not always open. If they are, it might only be for about an hour or an hour and a half, so you will have to catch it quick if you're trying to do that. If you want a more easy pace, you can get lunch at the buffet at La Veranda or at the pool deck. For dinner, outside of the signature restaurants, they transform La Veranda into Sette Mari, which is an Italian-themed restaurant. And they also open up Compass Rose, which is their largest restaurant, and I think has their best menu. That menu has their normal everyday favorites, but then they also have daily specials. One night I got a ribeye, and the other night I got lobster tail and scallops, and it was all delicious. But I have to talk about the coffee bar. So they have a real espresso machine and a dedicated barista who made the best lattes and cappuccinos. They were so good. They even have non-dairy milk alternatives, and we went every day. We loved it. They also have automated espresso makers all throughout the ship, but those ones only have regular dairy, and they're not as good. Throughout the ship, there are bars everywhere, and they each have a unique cocktail menu and some snacks like chips or peanuts. They all have full bars with top shelf liquor, so they can make you whatever you want. Just make sure you tell them the brand of alcohol, otherwise you're going to get well alcohol when you order your drink. If you do like to have a few pops, but you're trying to avoid the hangover, do yourself a favor and grab a Gatorade from the gym area. So to get to the gym, you can either cut through the spa on the 5th floor and go up the staircase near the locker rooms, or you can go from the 6th floor and it has a separate entrance. When you get there, there's a little vestibule area with a fridge, and that fridge is stocked with all different kinds of sports drinks. Then we have the 2 exercise areas. They each have different pieces of equipment. It's pretty nice. Whenever I went, there was always a machine ready. And there's a jogging track above the pool deck. I had planned to run on the jogging track on days where we were at sea, but unfortunately on those days, we were in the open ocean and it was very, very bumpy. So what I ended up doing was taking a brisk walk on the treadmill and just holding on to the side so that I didn't fall over. So now, outside of the eating and drinking, other things to do on the ship, my personal favorite was to use the spa amenities. If you go into the spa area, there's locker rooms, and in the locker rooms, each one has its own sauna, steam room, and cold room. And then if you walk through the locker room, you end up on the back of the ship. And there's a small pool there. Just know that that pool is not heated, and there's some pool chairs and stuff like that so you can relax. I personally just loved going in the steam room and then stepping out on the deck to cool off in the crisp air. There is another large pool, which is also not heated, and 2 hot tubs on the pool deck if that's more your speed. If you walk up from the pool deck to the jogging track area, they also have some other fun games. So they have ping pong, croquet, bocce, mini golf, a tennis/pickleball court, shuffleboard, and even a mock driving range. Since this trip was late May, early June in Alaska, it was still cold, and the only time I saw people up there playing the games was the first day when we were still in Vancouver and the temps were still in the mid-70s. Otherwise, it was a little bit too windy and cold for people to be playing mini golf out there. There's also a balcony that goes all the way around the ship on deck 5, which I walked every day. So I wake up earlier than my husband. I would get my little cappuccino from the coffee bar and I would walk around the ship on deck 5 every morning. If you're looking for something a little quieter, there's a library with daily brain teasers and crossword puzzles, along with a card room and a smoking lounge where you can buy a cigar if you forgot to bring your own. On top of that, every night when you get turned down service, they give you a schedule of events for the next day. So the complimentary activities cover nearly every hour from 8 a.m. to midnight, but you do have to be careful because there's usually 1 or 2 activities per day that are geared towards selling you something and not necessarily doing something fun with your time. Almost every night they have a show at about 9:30, so keep that in mind when you schedule your dinner reservation. And the shows and lectures take place in this very nice theater, and walking around, every seat has a good view. For the excursions, it's best to book as early as you can because they open up 1 year prior to sailing, and you have your choice of free or paid upgrade options. We booked about 6 months in advance, and a lot of the more exciting excursions were already booked up, but this may just have been due to small capacity. Be aware that Regent's website is very slow, and it will take a lot longer than you think to book your excursions. But I will say, getting on and off the ship was very easy. I don't think we had to wait any more than 10 minutes at any port. The excursions were really the only time when I was disappointed in Regent's customer service. So we had booked a sea kayaking excursion that was canceled due to ocean conditions. And Regent just left a message in the room an hour before we were supposed to start. We didn't get it because we weren't in the room. They didn't try and call ourselves or email us, and we showed up to the meeting point on time and nobody was there. So we had to go find a representative from Regent and figure out what was going on. I'm really disappointed in this customer service because I imagine things get canceled due to weather all the time, and I think they really should have had someone standing there with a sign to communicate to us that our excursion was canceled. As for the other excursions, make sure you read it carefully when you book them because they do make them out to be a little bit better than they are. For example, one of ours, I thought we would be going on a dog sled ride, but we just went to the kennel. We got a lecture about how they preserve the breed, how they take care of the dogs, and how they prep for the Iditarod. And then we did see the dogs, we got to pet them, and we got to see someone else go on the dog sled ride, which was really cool, and I learned a lot, but it isn't what I had expected to get when I booked that particular excursion. Also keep in mind that the majority of the tour guides you're going to get on these tours are college kids working seasonally. If you want a more in-depth experience, just make sure that your description says that the tour is led by a naturalist, but that really just depends on your personal preference if it matters to you or not. Lastly, if you want to try and save a couple bucks, you can go online and search for exactly the same tour and book directly. Regent does overcharge you for the tour, so it just depends on how much work you want to put in to save a couple $100. And now for the cost. All in all, this cruise was listed at $20,398 per person, and we ultimately paid $5,450 per person. So this price does not include excursions or airfare. Just know that the listed price is negotiable over the phone, especially if you can find something lower elsewhere. So we got such a good deal because, first of all, we booked a Black Friday deal, so we had a huge percentage off. But second of all, one of my travel companions is a master negotiator, and she called and price matched with a travel agent before we talked to Regent directly. So when we talked to them, we said, can you match this rate from the travel agent? And then we had to ask specifically for covert deal pricing, and they even went down a few $1,000s after they told us that that was the lowest price that they could possibly give us. Looking at a comparable 7-night Alaska cruise from Princess, a similar size room with the Premier package, which matches the top shelf drinks and food, runs about $4,000 per person. So Regent's running about $1,500 more per person. It's up to you whether you think this price difference is worth it. Although cruising isn't my preferred way to travel, I do think that this difference is worth it because you get a smaller ship. Everything is top of the line. The food and the drinks are so good. I never waited very long in port to get on or off the ship, and the staff was fantastic too. So if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. Bye.